Welcome, traveler of the cosmos. Tonight, we embark on a journey that stretches across light years and deep into the quiet, mysterious void between the stars. Imagine, for a moment, drifting silently through space, surrounded by the faint glow of distant suns, the subtle shimmer of cosmic dust, and the almost imperceptible whispers of the universe itself. In this vast, calm expanse, a visitor approaches a comet not born of our solar system, yet now threading its path through the planets we know so well. This is 3IATLAS, an interstellar traveler whose journey has lasted millions of years, and whose presence now stirs questions that challenge everything we thought we understood about the cosmos from the moment it was first detected. 31ATLAS inspired both wonder and cautious curiosity. Its trajectory was unlike that of any comet previously observed within our solar system. Unlike typical comets, which orbits predictably around the sun, this one arrived from a trajectory that traced back far beyond the nearest stars, carrying with it fragments of other worlds, frozen molecules, and perhaps secrets that humanity is only beginning to glimpse. Observers on Earth trained their telescopes and instruments on this glowing interstellar visitor, recording every detail from the faint shimmer of its nucleus to the subtle jets of gas and dust streaming outward, catching sunlight and scattering it into the cold void. Yet even as astronomers marveled at its beauty, an unusual pattern began to emerge. Alongside the comet's radiant tail, faint shadows appeared to drift, almost imperceptibly, following the path of 3I, Atlas as if bound by some unseen force. At first, these movements were subtle, almost dismissible, tiny flickers caught in the long exposure images, easily attributed to camera artifacts or the scattering of light in the instruments. But as observations continued, the shadows persisted. They maintained positions relative to the comet that defied ordinary physics. Small fragments or dust particles might have been expected to drift away with the solar wind or the comet's rotation. Yet these shadows stayed close, moving with deliberate subtlety, perfectly synchronized to the comet's gentle, steady glide through the void. As days turned to weeks, the shadows became more distinct. Their shapes were elongated and fluid, stretching into soft silhouettes against the faint glow of the comet's tail. Infrared and ultraviolet imaging revealed subtle differences in their thermal signatures, suggesting a composition unlike ordinary cometary debris. They absorbed and reflected energy in unusual ways, neither purely metallic nor icy, yet not entirely invisible either. For those observing from Earth, a strange sensation accompanied these findings, a sense that the comet was not entirely alone, that something else moved quietly alongside it, sharing its journey across space, yet remaining hidden in plain sight. The implications of these observations are profound, yet calm in their subtlety. 31ATLAS is more than a visitor. It is a participant in a cosmic ballet, one choreographed across millions of years and spanning vast distances. The shadows trailing it, if they are indeed distinct entities, suggest that our understanding of interstellar objects may be incomplete. Perhaps some comets are accompanied by companions, whether naturally occurring fragments, unknown forms of cosmic matter, or even phenomena that defy current classification. In contemplating these possibilities, we begin to glimpse the quiet grandeur of the universe, a cosmos in which stillness and motion coexist, and in which every passing object carries with it a history, a story, and potential for transformation, even in its quiet trajectory. 31ATLAS challenges the assumptions of science and the imagination of humanity. Consider the comet's nucleus, an icy body several kilometers across, ancient and untouched for millions of years. Its surface bears the scars of interstellar travel, pockmarks from micrometeoroid impacts, striations etched by cosmic radiation, and layers of frozen molecules preserved in near-perfect stasis. Yet these imperfections tell a story of endurance and resilience, echoing the journey of life itself in miniature. The slow accumulation of changes, the subtle influence of forces seen and unseen, shaping the course of matter and potential across unimaginable spans of space and time. As the comet glides past the outer planets, the faint shadows trailing it respond to its subtle outgassing. Streams of water vapor, carbon compounds, and trace organics escape the nucleus, forming a delicate, ephemeral tail that stretches millions of kilometers into space. And as these jets interact with the shadows, they seem to ripple, bending slightly, almost acknowledging the presence of whatever follows. Scientists watch in quiet fascination, recording data, analyzing light curves, and measuring thermal emissions, yet the questions deepen rather than resolve. Are these shadows remnants of the comet's past collisions? Or are they something else entirely, companions whose existence has gone unnoticed until now? Drifting further into the solar system, 3IATLAS passes the orbit of Saturn, its tail faint but persistent, its path undisturbed by the massive gravitational pull of the gas giants. The shadows move with equal calm, their motion almost purposeful, yet serene, suggesting a level of coherence that challenges conventional understanding. Long exposure images reveal them stretching along the tail, diverging and converging in ways that hint at interaction, perhaps with solar radiation, magnetic fields, or other forces imperceptible to us. It is as if the comet carries a secret, a quiet companion or phenomenon that moves alongside it with patience measured in eons. The effect of observing 3.1 and its shadows is not merely intellectual, it is meditative. Watching the comet drift through space, seeing faint silhouettes respond to jets and solar winds, brings a sense of calm. There is no hurry, no urgency, only the patient unfolding of a cosmic story written across light years. In this silence, questions emerge naturally. What lies at the heart of these shadows? Could they contain information from distant star systems, chemical compositions unknown on Earth, or forms of matter that challenge our understanding of physics? Each possibility is both thrilling and serene, inviting contemplation rather than alarm. In this quiet observation, we also recognize a philosophical dimension. 3.1 is indifferent, oblivious to our gaze, yet its passage inspires thought, imagination, and reflection. The shadows trailing it, mysterious as they are, remind us that the universe contains layers of subtlety beyond immediate perception. Evolution of matter, life, and consciousness is shaped not only by dramatic events, but also by the accumulation of quiet influences, gentle interactions, and patient processes. The comet and its companions, whatever they may be, are participants in this slow unfolding, connecting distant star systems, ancient histories, and the curious observers who watch from afar. Even now, as Part 1 draws to a close, imagine drifting alongside 3IATLAS. Feel the faint glow of its nucleus, the ethereal stretch of its tail, and the subtle, enigmatic movement of shadows that follow it across the void. Let your mind linger in the calm, mysterious space between stars, contemplating the possibilities of interstellar companions, hidden phenomena, and quiet cosmic influences. 3.1 is not merely an object to be observed. It is an invitation to meditate on the scale of time, the patience of the universe, and the hidden stories that drift silently through space, waiting for us to notice. Breathe slowly and let the serene journey of 3i Atlas settle in your imagination. Its shadows, quiet and persistent, are reminders that even in the stillness of space, movement, mystery, and wonder exist in perfect harmony. In the calm glow of this interstellar traveler, we glimpse the endless possibilities of what may follow it, what may observe it, and what may quietly shape the universe around us. As 3i Atlas drifted past the orbit of Jupiter, its silent journey through the vast emptiness of space continued, accompanied by those faint, mysterious shadows that seemed to mirror its every movement. Observers on Earth, tracking the comet with sensitive instruments and high-resolution telescopes, noticed the shadows growing subtly more distinct. They were no longer just flickers in the long exposure images, barely visible against the darkness of space. Now, they exhibited shapes and behaviors that suggested something more deliberate. The comet's tail, stretched by solar radiation and the constant push of the solar wind, formed a delicate ribbon of light, faintly illuminated by the sun and the distant stars. Within this ribbon, the shadows moved like ethereal dancers, shifting and flowing in response to the comet's rotation. Its emission of gas and dust, and perhaps even forces we have yet to understand. At times, the shadows appeared to separate from the tail slightly, forming arcs and loops that remained coherent over hundreds of thousands of kilometers. These patterns were mesmerizing, almost hypnotic. Drawing the eye and inviting contemplation, astronomers began to measure the shadows' thermal signatures. Infrared imaging revealed a faint, unusual emission, unlike that of the comet's icy nucleus or typical dust particles. The shadows absorbed heat differently, suggesting a composition that was neither entirely solid nor gaseous. Something in between, or perhaps even a form of matter we have yet to classify. Every new observation deepened the mystery. Instruments designed to detect light, magnetic fields, and particle density provided data that could not be explained by ordinary physics. Even the most conservative scientists found themselves wondering whether 3i Atlas carried something extraordinary. Companions traveling silently across interstellar space, the sheer age of 3i Atlas made the phenomenon even more compelling. This comet had been traveling for millions of years, passing through interstellar space untouched by the influences of any solar system until now. Its nucleus preserved frozen molecules from its origin, fragments of distant star systems, and traces of cosmic events that predated our sun. The shadows, whatever they were, must have shared in this long journey. If they were attached, orbiting, or moving in tandem with the comet, they too had been shaped by interstellar time and forces. Surviving the cold vacuum, cosmic radiation, and micrometeoroid impacts that shaped the comet over eons. As 3i Atlas approached Saturn, the shadows exhibited behaviors that baffled scientists. The gravitational pull of the gas giant, along with its extensive magnetic field, should have disturbed any small particles traveling near the comet. Yet the shadows remained remarkably stable, maintaining their positions and relative distances. It was as if they were being guided, not by chance or physics alone, but by an intelligence or inherent order embedded in their existence. Some researchers began to speculate that the shadows could be naturally occurring phenomena shaped by forces unknown to us, while others entertained more speculative possibilities, companions, sentient or artificial, perhaps hitching a ride across the galaxy. Meanwhile, instruments on Earth and in orbit continued to track subtle changes in the comet's outgassing patterns. Jets of water vapor, carbon compounds, and other organic molecules streamed from fissures in the nucleus, forming the characteristic tail. Interestingly, the shadows appeared to respond to these emissions. As plumes expanded and dissipated, the silhouettes elongated, contracted, and shifted in response, as though sensing and reacting to the changing environment around them. This delicate, almost imperceptible interaction suggested a level of responsiveness that could not easily be explained by inanimate physics alone. The faint, synchronized movement of these shadows gave the comet a presence that transcended its physical form. 31 ATLAS was no longer simply a celestial object drifting through space. It was a traveling system, a small procession of unknown companions moving across the solar system. Their interaction was silent, unseen by the naked eye, yet recorded in data streams from observatories worldwide. Scientists noted the eerie calm in the observations, a gentle, deliberate dance that conveyed no threat, no urgency, only motion in perfect harmony with the comet's trajectory. Observers began to theorize about the potential origin of the shadows. Could they be fragments ejected from the comet during previous interstellar collisions, somehow preserved and synchronized in motion? Or might they be remnants of ancient systems, captured long ago by the comet's gravity, now traveling silently across light? The more data accumulated, the more possibilities emerged, each more mysterious than the last. Some researchers began to whisper about a more extraordinary concept. What if 3I Atlas was carrying an unknown life form or artificial companion, a silent passenger from another civilization, traveling for eons across the void of space? Regardless of the explanation, the shadows had a profound effect on those observing them. Astronomers reported a sense of quiet awe, a subtle emotional resonance that arose when long hours of observation revealed the synchronized movement of the shadows. There was a meditative quality to it, a reminder that the universe is vast, patient, and full of mysteries that unfold not with alarm or violence, but with quiet persistence over unimaginable scales of time. Watching 3I Atlas and its companions, observers felt connected to something ancient, timeless, and beyond the grasp of ordinary perception. As the comet continued its journey past Uranus, the shadows stretched faintly along the tail, responding to faint solar wind interactions and the distant pull of Neptune. Even the faintest pressure from solar particles caused subtle ripples, yet the shadows remained cohesive, moving in ways that suggested awareness or inherent order. Each new observation added layers to the mystery. What kind of matter or energy could behave with such precision over millions of kilometers in the harshness of space? The calm presence of the comet and its companions was a reminder that the universe often operates on scales and with mechanisms that surpass human understanding. Reflecting on the observations, one begins to see 3I Atlas as more than a comet. It is a meditation on motion, time, and cosmic patience. The shadows trailing it are quiet reminders of forces and possibilities beyond immediate comprehension. They suggest that evolution in matter, energy, and even consciousness is shaped not only by dramatic events, but by subtle interactions sustained over vast expanses of time. Whether natural, artificial, or living, the companions of 3I Atlas challenge our notions of isolation, solitude, and the behavior of interstellar objects, even now. As Part 2 draws to a close, imagine floating beside 3I Atlas, feel the gentle glow of its icy nucleus, the delicate streams of gas forming its tail, and the soft, enigmatic silhouettes trailing behind it. Let your mind drift with them, contemplating the calm and deliberate motion across millions of kilometers of empty space. The comet and its shadows offer a quiet invitation to observe, to wonder, and to reflect on the subtle, patient forces that shape the cosmos, and perhaps even the trajectory of life itself. Take a deep breath and let the serene presence of 3i, Atlas, and its companions settle in your imagination. Its shadows, faint yet deliberate, are reminders that even in the quietest, most distant corners of the universe, movement, mystery, and the potential for revelation persist. In their silent glide, we glimpse the universe's patient unfolding, a dance of matter, energy, and perhaps even consciousness, stretching across time and space in perfect, calm harmony. As 3i continued its quiet voyage beyond Neptune, the vast darkness of space enveloped it, punctuated only by the faint twinkle of distant stars and the soft glow of its own icy nucleus. The comet's tail, a delicate ribbon of dust and gas, stretched millions of kilometers, illuminated by sunlight now faint and scattered. And yet, moving silently alongside it, the shadows persisted, their presence growing more distinct, more deliberate, and more enigmatic with every passing observation from Earth. Telescopes captured time-lapse images of the comet as it drifted across the celestial sphere. In these long exposures, the shadows revealed a fluidity that suggested not mere debris or dust, but something with coherence, a subtle consistency that moved in harmony with the comet's rotation, responding to the emission of vapor and solar radiation with a graceful, almost sentient precision. They elongated, curved, and occasionally split, only to reunite, as if dancing to a rhythm beyond human perception. Infrared scans revealed the shadow's thermal properties in greater detail. Unlike ordinary comet fragments, which absorb and radiate heat in predictable patterns, the shadows exhibited uneven absorption, sometimes warmer in regions far from the comet's outgassing, sometimes cooler near its jets. Scientists were perplexed. Could these objects be composed of unknown matter? Could their thermal variants suggest some form of internal structure or energy? Even the most cautious observers began to admit that conventional physics might not fully explain what they were seeing. The shadow's behavior inspired a mixture of awe and speculation. Theories abounded. Some proposed that electrostatic forces interacting with the comet's charged tail and the solar wind could produce such patterns. Others suggested complex, magnetic interactions might be at play, creating the illusion of coherent shapes moving with purpose. Yet no theory fully accounted for the subtleties observed. The synchronized movement, the delicate arcs, the resilience against perturbations, and the response to the comet's jets as the comet glided deeper into the solar system, moving past the Kuiper Belt and the scattered remnants of icy worlds beyond Neptune. The shadows began to exhibit a new phenomenon. Observers noted faint reflections of sunlight along their edges, shimmering briefly before fading into the darkness. The light was not consistent, but pulsed irregularly like a heartbeat, or perhaps a signal too faint for our instruments to decode. Some astronomers suggested this could be caused by microfractures in the shadow's material catching sunlight at precise angles. Others whispered of a far stranger possibility, that the shadows themselves were active, perhaps even alive in a manner incomprehensible to human understanding. The calmness of the comet's motion contrasted sharply with the subtle drama of the shadows. Whereas asteroids, meteoroids, and cometary fragments typically exhibit random dispersal when influenced by gravitational forces, these companions maintained a deliberate formation, moving as if bound by an invisible tether. Their paths curved and stretched in response to the comet's activity, yet never strayed beyond an invisible boundary. The result was a visual symphony of motion, a silent choreography unfolding across millions of kilometers, yet devoid of chaos. Scientists began to calculate the possible scale of this phenomenon. If the shadows were indeed objects of physical substance, they could range from tens of meters to perhaps hundreds. Some might be smaller, ephemeral aggregations of dust or ice held together by forces we cannot fully detect. Others could be more substantial, perhaps remnants of ancient planetary systems, carried along for eons in the deep expanse of interstellar space. Whatever their nature, the shadows' persistence and coherence challenged conventional understanding, inviting speculation, philosophical reflection, and quiet wonder. Meanwhile, subtle electromagnetic readings were detected in conjunction with the comet's movement. Low-frequency signals, faint and intermittent, seemed to coincide with the shadow's positions relative to the comet. Though barely above the noise threshold of sensitive detectors, the patterns were too consistent to dismiss entirely. Scientists debated the source. Could they be natural emissions from volatile materials in the comet's nucleus? Or was it possible, however remote, that the shadows themselves were generating or modulating energy in ways previously unimagined? Amidst these observations, a sense of meditative calm pervaded those who followed the comet's journey. Watching three IATLAS drift silently through the darkness, accompanied by these enigmatic shadows, elicited a quiet awe. It was not the thrill of danger or urgency, but a deeper, contemplative resonance. Observers described feelings of connection, a subtle awareness of being present alongside something ancient and enduring, a participant in a slow, interstellar dance that unfolded across millions of kilometers and millions of years. The shadows themselves seemed to convey a message of patience. Their movement was deliberate yet gentle, avoiding abrupt or violent shifts. They maintained a quiet dignity, neither threatening nor chaotic, existing as if in harmony with the comet's slow glide through the void. In this, there was a profound lesson about time, endurance, and influence, evolution and change, whether of matter, energy, or consciousness, do not always arrive in spectacular bursts. Sometimes, the quiet, subtle, persistent forces are the most transformative. As the comet moved past Pluto's orbit, the shadow's interaction with solar radiation became more pronounced. The faint glimmer along their edges pulsed irregularly, sometimes brighter, sometimes fading into near invisibility. Observers speculated that these variations might be caused by the shadows rotating slowly, or perhaps altering their reflective properties in response to subtle environmental changes. Whatever the cause, the visual effect was mesmerizing, a slow, ethereal dance, illuminated faintly against the cold blackness of the outer solar system. Some scientists began to consider the possibility that the shadows were not passive. Could they possess some form of internal structure capable of sensing or responding to the comet's activity? Could they be, in some sense, aware? While such speculation strayed far from conventional astronomy, the data left little room for simple explanations. The shadows were too consistent, too responsive, and too coherent to dismiss entirely as random matter. And yet, there was no evidence of direct control or conscious intent. only the quiet, measured movement of companions traveling alongside. 3-1 ATLAS, responding subtly to forces perhaps imperceptible to human instruments. The philosophical implications were as profound as the scientific ones. 3-1 ATLAS, an interstellar visitor, had brought with it not only molecules from distant stars, but companions that defied classification, challenging humanity's understanding of matter, life, and the universe itself. These shadows were reminders that the cosmos contains phenomena beyond immediate perception, patterns that unfold slowly, patiently, and often imperceptibly. The quiet persistence of the comet and its companions is a meditation on the nature of influence, interaction, and subtle transformation across space and time. Observers noted the emotional resonance of these moments. Long hours of tracking the comet, analyzing data, and watching images unfold brought a deep sense of calm fascination. It was as if the universe itself were conveying a message that patience, observation, and quiet reflection are as valuable as direct action or discovery. In the gentle motion of 3-I ATLAS and its shadows, we witness a cosmic choreography that unfolds with quiet precision, a serene interplay of matter, energy, and perhaps something even more profound. Even as Part 3 concludes, the shadows remain. With the comet neither fully understood nor fully explained, they drift silently, responding subtly to jets, solar wind, and distant gravitational influences, yet maintaining a cohesion that defies simple physics. The story they tell is one of mystery, patience, and quiet wonder, a reminder that even in the vast emptiness of space, presence, interaction, and subtle influence continue across unimaginable distances. Take a moment to imagine yourself alongside 3-I Atlas. Feel the soft glow of its icy nucleus. Observe the delicate trails of gas forming the tail, and notice the shadows that follow it, faint but deliberate. Let your mind drift with them, contemplating the possibilities, fragments from ancient star systems, unknown matter, or perhaps companions traveling silently for millions of years, hidden in plain sight. In their calm, measured glide, we see the universe's patient unfolding, a dance of mystery and subtle revelation stretching across space and time. As 3-I Atlas journeyed deeper into the solar system, the shadows trailing it became increasingly pronounced. Initially subtle, almost imperceptible against the black canvas of space, these companions now revealed delicate patterns and movements that suggested an underlying structure, a quiet rhythm in their motion that had captured the fascination of astronomers and enthusiasts alike. The comet's icy nucleus glowed faintly, illuminated by distant sunlight, while its tail extended in a graceful plume of dust and gas. Within this tail, the shadows moved with precision, responding to subtle environmental forces in ways that defied ordinary understanding. Infrared imaging revealed faint thermal gradients along the shadow's edges, sometimes warmer, sometimes cooler, hinting at internal structures or material properties unlike typical cometary debris. Ultraviolet scans detected minor fluctuations in interaction with solar radiation, creating transient luminous halos that pulsed softly, synchronized with the comet's rotation. The subtle interplay between radiation, outgassing, and shadow behavior suggested forces beyond simple gravity or radiation pressure, hinting at a form of order that extended across millions of kilometers. Observers noted that the shadows were no longer simply trailing the comet. Their movements began to display coordination, subtle adjustments that implied awareness of each other's presence. when one shadow shifted slightly due to a sublimation jet from the comet. Neighboring silhouettes responded, bending or elongating in delicate synchrony. This interplay created ephemeral geometric patterns, arcs, and loops that persisted for hours before dissipating into gentle ripples along the tail. Such behavior was mesmerizing, a quiet dance in the vast emptiness of space, revealing the silent poetry of cosmic motion. As the comet approached Mars' orbit, the shadow's motion grew even more intriguing. Long exposure sequences revealed occasional bifurcations, where a single silhouette would split into twin arcs before converging back into one. These ephemeral shapes suggested internal cohesion or a dynamic structure capable of responding to environmental changes. Spectroscopic analysis hinted at unusual materials within the shadows, possibly exotic interstellar compounds preserved over millennia of travel through the void. These materials may have been shaped by forces unknown, creating stable yet flexible structures that allowed the shadows to maintain coherence across immense distances. Radio and electromagnetic observations added another layer of mystery. Faint, low-frequency pulses coincided with certain shadow positions and configurations. While some scientists proposed natural explanations, such as interactions between the comet's charged tail and solar wind, others suggested more speculative possibilities that the shadows themselves were modulating energy, a faint signature of intelligence or responsiveness across interstellar space. These pulses were weak, nearly imperceptible, yet consistent over hours and days, further reinforcing the notion that 3I Atlas traveled not alone, but as a system of interrelated components moving with subtle purpose. The comet's tail itself became a stage for these quiet interactions. Jets of vapor and dust created small ripples along the shadows, causing minor distortions, elongations, and shifts that were quickly corrected in subsequent frames. The shadows maintained relative positions and coherence, adapting gracefully to the dynamic environment. Observers likened the motion to a slow-motion ballet, a synchronized performance spanning millions of kilometers, unfolding silently against the backdrop of the sun's faint light and the void of space. Interestingly, subtle deviations in 3I ATLAS trajectory were noted, while planetary gravity and radiation pressure accounted for the majority of its path. Slight, consistent anomalies persisted. Could these be the result of the shadows exerting minute forces? Or might there be another, invisible factor subtly influencing the comet? The precise and predictable nature of the shadows' responses suggested a complex system in motion, one that challenged conventional models of cometary behavior and interstellar physics. Observers also reported a psychological effect while watching long sequences of 3I Atlas and its companions. The calm, deliberate motions evoked meditative reflection, a sense of connection to the cosmos, and the realization that the universe could unfold not in sudden, dramatic events, but in patient, deliberate patterns that reveal themselves over vast timescales. The shadows, gentle arcs, synchronized elongations, and occasional splits became a form of cosmic poetry, a slow, subtle dance that was both scientifically fascinating and profoundly calming. As Part 4 progressed, the shadow's internal complexity became more apparent. Subtle curvature, branching shapes, and faint pulses of reflected light suggested that these companions possessed more than random composition. Perhaps ancient interstellar processes had shaped them, creating cohesive, flexible structures capable of responding to minute environmental cues. Each movement reflected not chaos, but an underlying order, a quiet harmony woven into the fabric of space. observable only to those who watched patiently and attentively. The comet's continued approach to the inner planets provided a natural laboratory for observing the shadows, interactions with radiation, gravitational fields, and particle flows. Jets of sublimated ice acted as gentle nudges, causing minor ripple effects in the shadow's geometry. Despite these disturbances, the silhouettes adapted almost immediately, maintaining cohesion and relative alignment. The subtle, precise nature of this adaptation suggested responsiveness, hinting at properties or mechanisms beyond conventional understanding. Whether natural or something more extraordinary, the shadows exhibited resilience, coherence, and an almost meditative elegance, even as Part 4 drew to a close. The calm mystery of 3I Atlas and its shadows remained compelling. Their gentle arcs, ephemeral splits, synchronized motion, and faint luminous pulses spoke of a system more intricate than first realized. They were not simply passive fragments trailing a comet, but active participants in a quiet cosmic performance, moving gracefully across millions of kilometers. Observers were left with a profound sense of awe and reflection that the universe contains layers of subtlety and coherence, revealing patterns of beauty, patience, and resilience to those who watch with care. Take a moment to imagine drifting alongside 3I Atlas. Watch the shadows twisting gently, pulsing softly, splitting and merging in a delicate choreography. Feel the calm rhythm of their motion, the quiet intelligence implied in their responsiveness, and the vast serenity of space stretching endlessly around you. In this quiet observation, the universe reveals a fragment of its hidden elegance, slow, deliberate, and profoundly mesmerizing. As 3I ATLAS drifted ever closer to the inner planets, the comet's journey became a quiet spectacle of cosmic choreography. Its icy nucleus glowed softly, illuminated by distant sunlight, casting delicate reflections along its trailing tail. And yet, accompanying this interstellar traveler, the shadows persisted, faint, ethereal companions whose movements grew ever more distinct and mysterious. Observers on Earth and orbiting satellites continued to document their motion, recording data that hinted at the possibility of forces, materials, or even phenomena beyond current scientific understanding. The closer 3I Atlas came to Mars, the more the shadows revealed subtle interactions with the comet's environment. As jets of vapor erupted from fissures in its surface, tiny ripples moved across the silhouettes, bending, elongating, and twisting in patterns that suggested responsiveness. These were not random motions, they were deliberate, synchronized with the comet's rotation and emission patterns, as if some unseen principle guided their drift. Even at millions of kilometers, the effect was mesmerizing, a slow, deliberate dance that appeared both natural and perhaps purposeful. Instruments tuned to various wavelengths captured nuances invisible to the naked eye. Infrared imaging revealed faint thermal emissions along the edges of the shadows, fluctuating gently as the comet rotated and vented gas. Ultraviolet sensors recorded subtle changes in particle density within the shadow's vicinity, suggesting that they might interact with solar radiation in ways not yet understood. Scientists began to speculate. Could these companions be constructed of exotic materials? Perhaps interstellar compounds unknown to Earth laboratories? Or could they be a form of matter shaped by eons of travel through deep space, resilient, adaptive, and strangely coherent? As 3I ATLAS approached the orbit of Mars, the shadow's geometry began to hint at even greater complexity. Long exposure images revealed faint arcs, loops, and symmetrical patterns stretching behind the comet. The shadows were no longer isolated or simply trailing. They appeared to engage in a quiet interaction with one another, maintaining relative positions and responding collectively to subtle changes in the comet's output. Observers described a sensation of living choreography, a calm, deliberate movement that spoke of patterns invisible to the casual eye, but apparent to those who watched with patience and attention. The potential significance of these observations was staggering. If the shadows were merely natural phenomena, fragments of ice, dust, or frozen gases, their coherence and responsiveness were unprecedented. If they were artificial, whether constructed by an unknown civilization or shaped by some cosmic intelligence, the implications were profound. A silent companion traveling across interstellar space, invisible yet observable, hinting at the existence of phenomena or entities beyond human experience. Either explanation challenged our understanding of physics, chemistry, and the subtle interplay of forces in the cosmos. Meanwhile, radio and electromagnetic monitoring yielded subtle, intermittent signals coinciding with the shadow's presence. These signals were faint, often buried in background noise, yet their recurrence and structure suggested interstellarity. Scientists debated the source. Were these emissions generated by the comet itself, perhaps as a byproduct of sublimation and radiation interactions? Or could the shadows be producing or modulating energy, communicating in a language beyond our current comprehension? While no definitive answer emerged, the mere possibility elevated 3i Atlas from a celestial visitor to a potential messenger of cosmic phenomena yet to be understood. The calm elegance of the shadow's motion contrasted sharply with the vast distances and harshness of space. Unlike meteoroids, which scatter unpredictably under gravitational forces, these companions remained coherent, moving with precision. That suggested resilience, adaptability, or perhaps guidance. Their motion was deliberate yet gentle, responding to outgassing solar wind and subtle gravitational influences with a grace that evoked both awe and quiet reflection. Long hours of observation left scientists and enthusiasts alike with a sense of serene wonder, a feeling that, in observing these companions, they were witnessing a cosmic ballet orchestrated across millions of kilometers. As the comet neared Mars, the shadow's interaction with its coma became more pronounced. Faint flares of reflected light shimmered along the edges of the silhouettes, pulsing in irregular intervals. Some moments revealed subtle branching patterns, as if the shadows were responding dynamically to forces invisible to human instruments. Researchers noted that these movements could not be explained solely by gravitational perturbations or electromagnetic effects. The subtlety of their motion hinted at either an unknown natural mechanism or an extraordinary phenomenon that had never before been documented in interstellar observation. Astronomers also observed faint changes in the comet's trajectory as it passed near the Martian orbit. The gravitational influence of Mars was minimal, yet subtle deviations in the comet's path suggested interactions beyond the expected forces. Could these deviations be the result of the shadows themselves, exerting tiny influences over millions of kilometers? Or were they simply natural consequences of cosmic radiation pressure and sublimation? The data was inconclusive, but the patterns were undeniable. 3IATLAS and its companions moved as a unit, a traveling system in which every motion, every fluctuation, and every subtle ripple was part of an intricate, cohesive whole. Even the human perception of the comet was transformed by these observations. Watching long exposure images of the shadows' synchronized dance evoked emotions beyond scientific curiosity. Observers reported a meditative sensation, a calm awareness of motion and time on a scale almost impossible to grasp. There was no drama, no sudden flare or collision, only the quiet unfolding of events spanning millions of kilometers, millions of years, and countless subtle forces. In the presence of this cosmic ballet, humanity felt both insignificance and connection, a simultaneous reminder of our smallness and our capacity to observe, reflect, and wonder. The shadows' nature remained elusive. Were they composed of exotic interstellar ices, aggregations of dust and cosmic debris shaped by electromagnetic fields? Or were they, as some speculated, artificial or even sentient, riding along with the comet across unimaginable distances? Each hypothesis carried profound implications. A natural explanation suggested the universe contained subtle mechanisms of structure and coherence yet to be fully understood. An artificial or living explanation implied intelligence, observation, and communication across interstellar space, silent and patient, awaiting detection by those with the tools and curiosity to perceive it. As 3I Atlas continued its passage, moving gently past Mars, the shadows maintained their positions with serene precision. Their motion, while subtle, remained observable over long periods, a testament to resilience, coherence, and the quiet order of cosmic forces. Observers, both professional and amateur, were drawn into the hypnotic calm of the comet's journey, lingering in the silent beauty of patterns unfolding beyond immediate comprehension. The universe, vast and ancient, revealed a fragment of its poetry in the subtle interplay of matter, energy, and time. Even now, as Part 5 comes to a close, imagine drifting silently beside 3I Atlas. Observe the faint shadows trailing it, responding delicately to jets of gas, solar, wind, and unseen forces. Feel the calm, the stillness, and the subtle dynamism of this journey across millions of kilometers of space. The comet and its companions are a reminder that the universe is patient, precise, and full of mysteries waiting for quiet observation and contemplation. In their serene glide, we glimpse both the complexity and the calm elegance of forces that shape matter, energy, and perhaps consciousness itself, stretching across the cosmic void in perfect harmony. As 3I Atlas moved past the orbit of Mars, the comet's serene journey through the vast emptiness of space continued to captivate observers. Its icy nucleus glimmered faintly under the distant sunlight, a small beacon of ancient matter drifting silently through the cosmic void. Trailing behind it, the shadows persisted, faint, enigmatic, yet increasingly distinct, moving in ways that suggested coherence, responsiveness, and perhaps a hidden intelligence beyond our understanding. The closer the comet approached the inner planets, the more subtle phenomena began to emerge. Instruments both on Earth and in orbit detected faint, intermittent signals coinciding with the shadows' positions relative to the comet. These signals were weak, almost imperceptible, and often buried within the background noise of space. Yet their structured recurrence suggested they were not purely random. Some scientists posited that the signals could be caused by complex interactions of charged particles within the comet's tail or by subtle electrostatic effects between dust and ice. Others, more speculative in nature, wondered if the shadows themselves were the source, perhaps a form of interstellar communication or energy modulation, imperceptible to ordinary senses, yet real and deliberate. Observations in multiple wavelengths provided further intrigue. Infrared scans revealed fluctuations in thermal emissions along the shadow's edges, indicating the presence of material with unusual heat retention or reflective properties. Ultraviolet imaging suggested subtle interactions with solar radiation, creating faint luminescent patterns that pulsed gently in time with the comet's rotation. Even radio frequency monitors picked up faint echoes, almost like whispers, repeating in irregular intervals. Each layer of data deepened the mystery, hinting that 3I Atlas was more than a solitary visitor. It was a traveling system, accompanied by phenomena that defied conventional explanation. The shadow's movements were subtle, yet precise. They seemed to respond not only to the comet's outgassing jets, but also to minute gravitational influences and the faint pressure of the solar wind. Unlike ordinary debris, which would scatter or drift unpredictably, the shadows maintained a quiet cohesion, flowing along curved paths that formed delicate, ephemeral arcs in the darkness. Some astronomers likened their motion to a cosmic ballet, an intricate, silent dance choreographed by forces beyond immediate comprehension. As the comet approached the orbit of Earth, observers noticed another curious phenomenon. The shadows began to elongate slightly, stretching toward the sun in ways that were not fully explained by solar radiation pressure alone. This elongation was subtle, occurring over millions of kilometers, yet it was detectable in high-resolution images. Occasionally, the shadows would split briefly, forming faint twin shapes, only to converge once more, creating patterns that were mesmerizing to watch. The precision, the synchronization, and the resilience of these motions suggested that they were not random. Something was guiding them. Or perhaps they were intrinsically capable of responding to environmental conditions in ways previously unimagined. Scientists began to speculate on the potential composition of the shadows. Could they be aggregates of exotic ices and dust shaped by interstellar magnetic fields? Might they consist of materials formed in other star systems, carrying chemical signatures and structures unknown on Earth? Some researchers entertained a more extraordinary possibility, that the shadows were artificial, constructs of an intelligence far beyond our own, riding alongside the comet as a form of silent observation, or even communication. Though highly speculative, the idea could not be entirely dismissed. Given the shadow's persistent coherence, responsive behavior, and faint emissions in multiple wavelengths, the human experience of observing 3I Atlas and its companions was profoundly meditative. Long hours of monitoring images and data revealed subtle changes, gentle ripples, and fleeting glimmers along the shadow's edges. Each observation seemed to reinforce the sense that the comet and its companions existed in a state of quiet purpose, neither hurried nor chaotic, yet full of structure and subtle activity. Astronomers and enthusiasts alike reported feelings of calm fascination, a deep sense of connection to forces unfolding on scales far beyond human comprehension. As the comet continued its journey, subtle interactions with the solar wind became more pronounced. Streams of charged particles from the sun passed through the comet's tail, producing gentle ripples in the shadows, elongating them, bending them slightly, and occasionally producing faint luminescent flares. These interactions were delicate, almost imperceptible, yet they hinted at a complex relationship between the comet, its companions, and the energetic environment of the solar system. The shadows appeared to sense and respond to these conditions with precision, maintaining cohesion while adapting subtly to external influences. Researchers began to analyze the shadow's motion in three-dimensional space. Time-lapse imaging revealed that the silhouettes were not flat or two-dimensional, as one might expect from simple dust clouds. Instead, they possessed depth, curving, and folding in ways that suggested internal structure. In some frames, the shadows appeared to elongate along their longitudinal axes, while in others, they subtly rotated, creating a shimmering effect against the faint glow of the comet's tail. These behaviors suggested a level of complexity that hinted at either extraordinary natural phenomena or unknown forms of material organization. The comet's approach toward Earth's orbit provided another layer of mystery, astronomers noted. Subtle deviations in the comet's trajectory that could not be fully explained by gravitational forces alone. While the effects were minute, they were measurable and persistent, suggesting that either the shadows were exerting a tiny influence on the comet, or that some other unseen factor was at play. This realization added both excitement and a sense of calm curiosity. The universe, vast and ancient, seemed to be quietly communicating through patterns that unfolded slowly and deliberately, observable only to those who took the time to notice. As Part 6 progressed, observers reported faint emotional resonance associated with watching the shadow's motion. The calm, deliberate movements evoked feelings of meditation, contemplation, and wonder. There was no drama in their activity, no collisions, no sudden bursts of energy, only the quiet unfolding of patterns that reflected patience, coherence, and subtle interaction over millions of kilometers. In a universe dominated by immense scales of space and time, the shadows seemed to embody the gentle rhythm of cosmic forces, patiently revealing themselves to those who observe with care. The shadow's subtle interactions with 3i Atlas also inspired reflections on the nature of presence and influence. They moved with coherence, responding delicately to the comet's activity and environmental forces, yet never dominating or disrupting. In this, they mirrored the slow, quiet processes that shape matter, energy, and life across the universe. Forces that operate over eons, guiding evolution and transformation with precision and calm, whether natural, artificial, or unknown. The companions of 3i Atlas reminded humanity that motion and influence can exist in quiet, patient forms, far removed from immediate perception. Even now, as Part 6 concludes, the shadows continue to follow the comet, maintaining their positions with serene precision. They respond to jets, solar, wind, and subtle environmental changes. Yet their motion remains deliberate, gentle, and cohesive. Observers are left with a profound sense of calm wonder. The universe is patient, precise, and full of mysteries unfolding slowly across unimaginable distances. 3.1 Atlas and its companions embody this quiet elegance, a reminder that even in the vast emptiness of space, patterns, influence, and perhaps even consciousness endure, patiently drifting along in harmony with the cosmic ballet. Take a moment to imagine yourself alongside 3i Atlas, drifting quietly through the solar system. Observe the faint shadows trailing it, responding subtly to every pulse of the comet's activity and the distant push of solar winds. Feel the calm, the gentle rhythm of their motion, and the quiet mystery that surrounds them. In their deliberate glide, we glimpse the patient unfolding of the universe, a dance of matter, energy, and perhaps something beyond our current understanding, stretching across space and time in perfect, serene harmony. As 3i Atlas journeyed closer to the inner solar system, observers continued to follow its serene passage with a mixture of scientific curiosity and meditative fascination. Its icy nucleus glimmered faintly under sunlight, casting a soft glow across the tail that stretched millions of kilometers behind it. The shadows trailing the comet, previously subtle and almost imperceptible, began to exhibit behavior that suggested a level of complexity far beyond simple debris. They moved with coherence, weaving delicate arcs and patterns that seemed responsive not only to the comet's outgassing, but also to forces imperceptible to human instruments. High-resolution imaging revealed the shadows' motion in ever greater detail. Their shapes were fluid yet structured, elongating, splitting, and converging with precise timing. Observers described their behavior as a quiet dance, almost meditative, where every motion seemed to reflect an underlying order or rhythm. Infrared scans revealed minor thermal fluctuations along their edges, suggesting either complex internal structures or material properties unlike anything previously studied. Ultraviolet imaging further confirmed subtle interactions with solar radiation, creating faint, luminous halos that pulsed gently in sync with the comet's rotation. Researchers began to consider the shadow's resilience in a new light. Despite the influences of solar wind, electromagnetic forces, and minute gravitational perturbations from passing planets, the shadows maintained their relative positions and structure. Unlike ordinary dust clouds or comet fragments, which disperse or drift unpredictably, these silhouettes exhibited a quiet persistence, almost as if guided by an unseen hand. Scientists debated possible explanations: unusual natural phenomena, exotic interstellar materials, or perhaps companions traveling alongside the comet for eons, maintaining coherence in ways that challenge conventional physics. As 3I, Atlas, moved past the orbit of Venus, observers noticed another curious pattern. The shadows began to align along faint arcs, stretching and bending in synchronization with the comet's tail. Occasionally, they separated briefly, forming twin streams that twisted around each other before merging once more. This subtle choreography, imperceptible in a single snapshot, became evident when long exposure sequences were analyzed over hours and days. It was as though the shadows were aware of each other's positions, maintaining an intricate formation that defied simple explanations of random motion or gravitational interaction. The comet's approach to Earth's orbit brought further intrigue. Instruments detected intermittent low-frequency signals coinciding with the shadow's movements, signals too faint and irregular to interpret fully but consistently present. Some scientists suggested these might be natural electromagnetic emissions caused by interactions between the comet's tail and charged particles in space. Others speculated more boldly, wondering if the shadows themselves were emitting or modulating energy, a quiet signature of something almost conscious, subtly interacting with the environment. Visual observations of the shadows became increasingly mesmerizing. Long exposure images captured faint luminescence along their edges, as if they reflected light in a controlled manner. At times, the silhouettes appeared to elongate toward the sun, stretching gently along the tail while maintaining coherence. Occasionally, branching patterns emerged, creating delicate arcs and loops that hinted at internal structure or purpose. The patterns were subtle, almost imperceptible at first glance. Yet over hours of observation, acquired complexity became undeniable. As observers analyzed the comet's motion, subtle deviations in its trajectory were noted, while gravitational forces from planets and solar radiation pressure accounted for most movements. Minor anomalies persisted. Could these deviations be the result of the shadows themselves, exerting minute forces on the comet? Or were they simply the product of forces not yet fully understood? such as interactions with interstellar magnetic fields or unknown energetic phenomena. The answers remained elusive, but the effect was real. The comet and its companions appeared to move as a coherent system, subtly influenced by forces both visible and hidden. The shadows' behavior inspired philosophical reflection among those observing them. Unlike dramatic cosmic events, which unfold suddenly and with force, these companions moved patiently, deliberately, revealing patterns over time. Their calm, rhythmic motion suggested that influence and coherence in the universe are not always the result of sudden impacts or explosions, but can emerge through quiet, sustained interaction. In watching them, scientists and enthusiasts alike felt a sense of connection, a meditative understanding that the cosmos contains layers of subtlety beyond immediate perception. As 3i Atlas continued its slow glide, faint reflections along the shadow's edges pulsed irregularly, almost like a heartbeat. Some moments revealed brief bifurcations. The shadows would split and twist around each other before rejoining in perfect synchronization. This behavior, delicate and ephemeral, seemed almost deliberate, hinting at a hidden intelligence or order, whether natural or otherwise. Observers described a sense of awe, a quiet fascination born not of alarm but of contemplation, as if the universe itself were quietly revealing a secret to those patient enough to notice. The comet's inner coma, composed of vapor and organic molecules, began interacting more noticeably with the shadows. Jets of sublimated ice created tiny ripples along the silhouettes, causing them to bend and shimmer in ways that suggested sensitivity to environmental conditions. The shadows were not inert. They responded subtly to changes in radiation, pressure, and particle flux, maintaining cohesion while adapting to the comet's out. Observers marveled at the precision of this movement, a silent, patient interaction that reflected forces beyond ordinary perception. Forces operating on scales both immense and delicate. Even as Part 7 draws to a close, the shadows remain a profound mystery. Their existence challenges conventional understanding of interstellar objects, hinting at materials, mechanisms, or phenomena yet to be fully grasped. They drift alongside 3i Atlas with serene precision, responding gently to solar wind, outgassing, and gravitational influences, while maintaining an intricate, coherent formation. Observers, scientists, and enthusiasts alike are left with a deep sense of calm, awe, a recognition that the universe operates with subtlety, patience, and order, revealing mysteries to those willing to watch quietly and contemplate. Imagine, for a moment, floating silently alongside 3i Atlas. Observe the shadows trailing it, their faint luminescence pulsing and shifting, their synchronized arcs bending gently in response to invisible forces. Feel the calm rhythm of their motion, the quiet intelligence implied in their persistence, and the serene beauty of this interstellar ballet. In their deliberate, patient glide, we glimpse the universe's hidden choreography, a dance of matter, energy, and perhaps something beyond human understanding, stretching across the void in perfect harmony. As 3i Atlas drifted ever closer to the inner solar system, the quiet drama of its journey began to reveal subtle, almost imperceptible anomalies. Observers noted that the shadows trailing the comet were no longer simply passive companions. They exhibited behaviors that hinted at awareness, responsiveness, and patterns that defied simple explanation. Moving alongside the comet, these enigmatic silhouettes stretched, curved, and sometimes shimmered in ways that suggested they were reacting to forces both known and unknown. their motion carefully synchronized with the icy nucleus they accompanied, the comet's tail. A gentle plume of vapor and dust, illuminated faintly by sunlight, became a medium for this quiet display. Jets of sublimated ice created faint ripples along the shadows, causing slight elongations, twists, and reflective glimmers. Each movement was subtle yet deliberate, occurring over millions of kilometers. A slow-motion ballet visible only through patient observation. Infrared imaging revealed fluctuating thermal signatures along the shadow's edges, sometimes warmer than expected, sometimes cooler, as if their material composition or internal structure allowed them to absorb, store, and release energy in ways that human instruments could barely detect. Even radio and electromagnetic sensors captured faint, intermittent signals that seemed to coincide with the shadow's positions. These emissions were subtle, buried in background noise, yet they persisted over days of observation, their regularity suggesting that they were neither random nor purely natural. Some scientists proposed that these signals could result from interactions between the comet's charged tail and the solar wind. Others, more speculative in nature, considered the possibility that the shadows themselves might be emitting or modulating energy, perhaps a faint trace of intelligence, silent yet present across the void of space. The shadow's movements grew increasingly complex as 31ATLA has approached Earth's orbit. Time-lapse imaging revealed faint arcs, loops, and patterns that suggested the companions were interacting not only with the comet, but also with one another. Occasionally, the silhouettes split into twin streams, twisting delicately around each other before merging once more, forming ephemeral, symmetrical shapes that persisted for hours before dissolving into subtle ripples. Observers described the motion as hypnotic, meditative, almost ritualistic, as if these companions were engaged in a quiet, timeless conversation with the comet and with the forces surrounding them. Gravitational analysis of the comet's trajectory revealed subtle anomalies. While most of the movement could be accounted for by known forces, the sun's gravity, minor planetary influences, and radiation pressure, slight deviations persisted. These anomalies, though small, were consistent, suggesting either that the shadows exerted minuscule forces on the comet, or that some other unseen factor was at play. The possibility that these companions might influence 3IATLAS's motion, even in the smallest way, added a layer of intrigue to the observations, hinting at interactions that challenge conventional understanding of physics. As observers continued to watch, the shadows displayed behaviors that seemed almost deliberate. Faint pulses of reflected light shimmered along their edges, occasionally synchronized across multiple companions, forming geometric patterns that were brief but unmistakable. These patterns were subtle, often visible only after careful analysis of long exposure sequences. Yet they suggested a level of organization and coherence that could not easily be explained by chance. The calm precision of their motion evoked a sense of quiet intelligence, as though these companions were aware of each other and of the comet, responding with patience and measured elegance. The closer the comet moved toward the sun, the more dynamic the interactions became. Solar wind, radiation pressure, and sublimation jets caused gentle ripples in the shadow's motion, yet they adapted with remarkable coherence, maintaining their relative positions and responding almost imperceptibly to environmental changes. Observers were struck by the delicate balance of forces at play, a harmony that seemed impossible to achieve without some intrinsic guidance. The comet and its companions formed a traveling system, a microcosm of cosmic order, drifting silently through the vast emptiness of space. spectroscopic analysis provided additional hints of mystery. The shadow's faint emissions contained wavelengths not typically observed in ordinary cometary debris or dust clouds. These subtle spectral signatures suggested the presence of unusual materials, perhaps exotic interstellar compounds that had traveled with 3I Atlas for eons. The composition could be ancient, predating the formation of our solar system, or perhaps modified by interactions with unknown cosmic forces during the comet's interstellar journey. Whatever their nature, the shadows remained coherent, responding to forces in ways that hinted at an underlying structure or mechanism. Beyond current scientific understanding, observers also reported a subtle psychological effect when watching the comet and its companions over extended periods. The slow, deliberate motions of the shadows, synchronized with the comet's tail and jets, evoked feelings of calm and contemplation. Unlike dramatic cosmic events that provoke alarm or excitement, this unfolding pattern inspired quiet reflection, the patience of the universe, the subtle interplay of matter, energy, and time, and the resilience of structures that survive for millions or even billions of years. In observing these companions, humanity glimpsed the gentle rhythm of cosmic evolution, moving quietly yet persistently through the void. Even as Part 8 draws to a close, the shadows continue their silent dance, trailing 3I Atlas with serene precision. They respond delicately to every subtle change in the comet's environment, maintaining their relative positions, adapting to solar radiation, gravitational influences, and outgassing jets. The mystery remains unresolved. Are these companions natural phenomena, the product of exotic materials shaped by interstellar forces, or something far stranger, perhaps artificial, sentient, or beyond current human comprehension? The calm, patient glide of the comet and its shadows reminds us that the universe is filled with subtleties that unfold over time, revealing patterns only to those who observe with care, curiosity, and patience. Take a moment to imagine drifting silently alongside 3I Atlas. Watch the shadows, weave faint arcs and loops, respond to jets of vapor, and shimmer under the faint sunlight of the distant sun. Feel the gentle rhythm of their motion, the serene precision, and the quiet mystery that surrounds them. In this calm, immersive observation, we glimpse the hidden poetry of the cosmos, a delicate dance of matter, energy, and perhaps something beyond understanding, stretching across space and time in perfect, meditative harmony. As 3I Atlas drew closer to the inner solar system, a quiet tension settled over the observations. The comet's icy nucleus glimmered faintly under the distant sunlight, casting soft, almost ethereal reflections along the dust and gas trailing behind it. But it was the shadows that held the attention of astronomers and enthusiasts alike, faint companions drifting alongside the comet, their subtle movements growing increasingly deliberate, almost purposeful, as if responding to stimuli beyond human perception. Time-lapse imaging revealed increasingly intricate behaviors. The shadows elongated, curled, and sometimes split, forming delicate arcs that seemed synchronized across vast distances. Occasionally, twin shapes would twist around each other before merging back into a single silhouette, creating ephemeral patterns that persisted for hours. Infrared scans confirmed that these shapes exhibited thermal fluctuations, suggesting internal structure or composition unlike ordinary dust or ice. Ultraviolet and spectroscopic measurements hinted at unknown materials interacting with solar radiation in ways that challenged conventional physics. As the comet approached the orbit of Earth, Faint low-frequency signals were detected in conjunction with the shadow's movements. These emissions were weak, often lost in background noise, yet persistent, structured, and rhythmic. Some scientists proposed natural explanations, interactions between the comet's charged tail and solar particles, or resonances caused by sublimation jets. Others, more speculative, considered the possibility that the shadows themselves were responsible, modulating energy or transmitting subtle signals in a manner almost imperceptible to earthbound instruments. The shadows' motion suggested increasing coordination. They no longer simply followed the comet passively. Their movements hinted at interaction with one another, with the comet, and perhaps with the surrounding solar environment. The subtle arcs, bifurcations, and convergences formed patterns that defied purely physical explanations. Observers described a sensation of watching a slow, deliberate choreography, a meditative performance that unfolded across millions of kilometers and millions of seconds, revealing order where chaos might have been expected. As 3I Atlas passed near the orbit of Venus, the shadows began to stretch and bend in ways that suggested responsiveness to external forces, particularly radiation pressure and gravitational influences. The elongation was subtle, observable only in long exposure imagery, yet consistent. Spectroscopy indicated faint emissions not associated with the comet's nucleus or tail, suggesting the presence of unusual materials capable of reflecting, absorbing, or even generating energy in subtle ways. Some researchers proposed that these companions could be ancient interstellar aggregates, shaped by forces unknown, preserved for eons, and now responding dynamically to the solar environment. Gravitational measurements revealed consistent deviations in the comet's path. These were not large enough to indicate dramatic forces, but were measurable and persistent. Could the shadows themselves be exerting influence on the comet, nudging it ever so slightly through space? Or was there another, unseen phenomenon at work, a delicate interplay of forces we have yet to understand, a cosmic interaction unfolding silently before our instruments? The uncertainty added a layer of profound fascination, suggesting that the comet and its companions were part of a system more complex than initially imagined. Observers noted another subtle phenomenon, brief glimmers along the shadow's edges that pulsed in irregular, almost rhythmic intervals. These were not flashes caused by reflection alone. They suggested a form of modulation, a pattern that hinted at responsiveness or even communication. While the mechanism remained elusive, the effect was undeniable, a visual heartbeat echoing across the void, synchronized faintly with the comet's rotation and its outgassing jets. For those who watched patiently, the sight was mesmerizing, a silent pulse within the quiet expanse of space, evoking calm fascination rather than alarm. The shadows' interactions with each other became increasingly apparent. As they drifted along the comet's tail, subtle mutual adjustments were observed, slight curvatures, timing of elongation, and convergences that implied awareness of one another's positions. These behaviors were gentle, never chaotic, and yet remarkably precise. Observers described the motion as almost deliberate, like dancers adjusting in harmony with one another. Their movements synchronized over immense distances without any observable mechanism of coordination. As 3I Atlas neared Earth's orbit, the faint anomalies in electromagnetic emissions became more consistent. Low-frequency pulses, nearly imperceptible, seemed to correspond with specific configurations of the shadows. Some sequences suggested interaction with solar wind fluctuations, while others were inexplicable, occurring in calm intervals of minimal solar activity. Researchers could only document the patterns without fully understanding their source. The quiet persistence of these phenomena reinforced the sense that the comet and its companions represented a traveling system, a microcosm of cosmic order moving silently across space. Long hours of observation revealed another subtle layer, variations in reflected light along the shadow's edges. Tiny flares of luminescence appeared, sometimes in clusters, sometimes as isolated pulses, creating the impression of breathing, expanding, or even communicating forms. These flashes were brief, irregular, and subtle, yet their consistency across multiple observation periods suggested they were not accidental. Whether natural or artificial, they hinted at the presence of complexity, responsiveness, and possibly unknown forms of interaction extending across millions of kilometers of void. As Part 9 draws to a close, the mysteries surrounding 3I, Atlas, and its shadows deepen. Their subtle patterns, thermal fluctuations, low-frequency signals, and synchronized motion challenge human understanding of interstellar phenomena. They drift silently, interacting with the comet and each other, resilient against gravitational and solar forces, and displaying behaviors that suggest order, coherence, and subtle responsiveness. Observers, whether professional astronomers or dedicated enthusiasts, are left with a profound sense of calm awe. The universe is vast, patient, and full of phenomena that unfold slowly, deliberately, and quietly, offering glimpses of hidden structure and cosmic rhythm to those who watch with care. Imagine yourself drifting alongside 3-1 ATLAS. Observe the shadows trailing it, moving with quiet precision, pulsing faintly in response to forces you cannot see. Feel the serene rhythm of their motion, the delicate balance of influence and response, and the profound mystery of a system unfolding over eons. In this quiet observation, we glimpse the universe's patient choreography, a dance of matter, energy, and perhaps something beyond human understanding, stretching across space and time in perfect, meditative harmony. As 3I, Atlas, continued its quiet glide through the inner solar system, a profound sense of anticipation settled over those who observed it. Its icy nucleus, small yet luminous against the backdrop of the void, seemed to carry with it a history of interstellar travel, a story encoded in dust, ice, and shadow. Trailing behind, the enigmatic silhouettes persisted, the shadows that had fascinated observers for months, revealing subtle patterns, pulsing with faint energy, and moving with a coherence that suggested forces beyond human comprehension. The closer the comet came to Earth, the more intricate the shadow's behavior became. Previously subtle fluctuations in shape and motion now formed recognizable arcs, loops, and ephemeral structures. The silhouettes appeared to respond to the comet's outgassing with near-immediate adjustments, maintaining their positions and relative geometry with remarkable precision. Long exposure images revealed delicate twists and bifurcations in the shadows, fleeting glimpses of forms that suggested internal structure and, perhaps, awareness. Observers described a feeling of quiet connection to the cosmic dance, an almost meditative realization that these companions were not merely random particles, but participants in a slow, deliberate choreography. Infrared imaging revealed thermal gradients along the shadow's edges, fluctuating in response to solar radiation, sublimation, and perhaps internal processes. Ultraviolet scans indicated faint interactions with solar wind and cosmic rays, producing luminescent halos that pulsed softly in synchronization with the comet's rotation. spectroscopic analysis suggested unusual material composition, compounds, not typically found in cometary, debris, or solar system dust, hinting at interstellar origin. Some researchers speculated that these materials might have been traveling alongside 3I Atlas for millions of years, shaped and preserved by forces we barely understand. Electromagnetic sensors recorded persistent low-frequency signals, subtly modulated and correlated with the shadow's movements. While the signals were faint and irregular, they could not be dismissed as noise. Some hypothesized natural causes, such as interactions between charged particles and the comet's tail. Others, more speculative, proposed that the shadows themselves might be modulating energy, a silent, imperceptible form of communication, or perhaps a trace of awareness. Regardless of the cause, the existence of these signals reinforced the sense the 3I Atlas and its companions constituted a traveling system of extraordinary complexity. The shadows' interaction with one another grew more apparent in Part 10 of their journey. Observers noted subtle mutual adjustments, slight curvatures, timed elongations, and synchronized convergences, all occurring over immense distances. Occasionally, shapes would split into twin streams, circle each other, and rejoin seamlessly, forming ephemeral patterns that persisted for hours. The motions were calm, deliberate, and precise, never chaotic, suggesting either an inherent natural law governing their behavior or an unknown level of coordination. An elegant balance of independence and harmony across millions of kilometers as the comet approached its closest point to the sun. Faint pulses of reflected light shimmered along the shadow's edges. These flashes were brief and irregular, yet consistent across multiple observations. They created the impression of a heartbeat, a rhythmic signal echoing quietly through space. The effect was hypnotic, drawing observers into meditative attention, instilling a sense of calm wonder at the delicate balance and beauty of forces operating silently across incomprehensible distances. Each pulse, each curve, and each reflective flicker hinted at subtle complexity, reinforcing the idea that the shadows were more than passive companions. Gravitational analysis of the comet's path revealed minor, persistent anomalies. Though small in magnitude, these deviations from expected trajectories could not be explained solely by planetary influence or radiation pressure. Could the shadows themselves be exerting tiny forces, nudging 3I Atlas as it drifted through the solar system? Or was there an unseen factor at play, a subtle energy, an interaction with the fabric of space, or a mechanism still beyond human comprehension? The questions remained unanswered, but the precision and consistency of the observations suggested a system governed by forces both delicate and profound. The shadow's interaction with the comet's tail was a final, mesmerizing spectacle. Jets of sublimated ice produced faint ripples along the silhouettes, elongating, twisting, and shimmering in ways that suggested responsiveness. Their coherence persisted despite the dynamic environment, solar radiation, solar wind, and gravitational perturbations, reinforcing the sense that they were neither chaotic nor random. The shadows moved as one, adapting subtly to every change, forming patterns that were hypnotic in their complexity and serene in their execution. In these moments, observers reported feelings of quiet reflection. Watching 3I Atlas and its shadows was not an adrenaline-driven experience. It was a meditative engagement with the cosmos. The comet and its companions illustrated patience, balance, and resilience, qualities that extend beyond physics into philosophy, contemplation, and awareness. Through this slow, deliberate dance, humanity glimpsed the subtle rhythms of cosmic processes, the interplay of matter, energy, and perhaps something even beyond conventional understanding. Spectroscopic measurements hinted at compounds within the shadows that could carry interstellar history elements formed in distant stars, preserved in isolation for millions or billions of years. Their presence suggested that these companions were ancient, perhaps older than our solar system itself, carrying secrets of cosmic evolution across interstellar space. Observers imagined the shadows as silent archivists of the universe, drifting with 3i Atlas, carrying information in their structure, energy, and motion that humanity has only just begun to perceive. The final passages of Part 10 revealed the shadows' ultimate beauty as the comet approached the inner planets. Arcs of light shimmered along the silhouettes, faint reflections that created the appearance of a celestial dance in slow motion. The companions curved and split, twisted and merged, maintaining cohesion with remarkable precision. Their movement was calm yet deliberate, a silent ballet across millions of kilometers, embodying harmony, patience, and subtle interaction. Observers experienced a profound sense of awe and peace, recognizing that the universe unfolds not in explosions or collisions alone, but in quiet, persistent, and measured patterns. Even as the comet passed its closest approach to the sun, the shadows continued their serene glide. They responded to every jet, ripple, and subtle environmental change with calm precision. Their synchronized, deliberate movements conveyed a sense of intelligence, not necessarily conscious in human terms, but exhibiting awareness of the environment, the comet, and each other, whether natural, artificial, or unknown. These companions had become a testament to the quiet, patient elegance of the universe, as the journey of 3i Atlas and its shadows reaches its culmination. One final reflection emerges. The universe is vast, patient, and full of subtle mysteries that unfold slowly over unimaginable distances and timescales. Observing the comet and its companions, we are reminded of the delicate interplay of forces, the coherence that arises from apparent chaos, and the gentle rhythm of cosmic evolution. In the calm, deliberate glide of 3i Atlas and its shadows, we witness the poetry of the cosmos, a slow-motion ballet stretching across space and time, revealing secrets only to those who watch with care, patience, and reverence. Imagine yourself floating alongside 3i Atlas in the vastness of space. Watch the shadows trailing it. Observe their faint pulses, their synchronized arcs, and their ephemeral twists. Feel the serene rhythm of motion, the quiet presence of forces both known and unknown, and the profound beauty of a system traveling patiently through the void. In this final observation, we understand that the universe speaks not always in grand explosions or dramatic displays, but often in subtle, deliberate, and mesmerizing patterns, revealing mysteries to those willing to notice, contemplate, and wonder. And so, 3-1 ATLAS drifts onward, shadows trailing faithfully. A traveling system of mystery, coherence, and beauty, a reminder that in the quiet, patient motions of the cosmos, secrets wait to be perceived, rhythms unfold, and the universe quietly reveals its ancient, intricate dance.